нами. І зараз для вітального слова я хотів би запросити заступника керівника Державної служби з якості освіти Івана Юрійчука. Так, я бачив, що Іван є, але чомусь у Івана вимкнутий мікрофон. Ільяса, ви могли би вимкнути мікрофон? Зараз я можу спробувати це сам зробити. Так, ми просто просили всіх. Іване, і ще раз,
Вітаю, шановні
Іван
колеги.
Юрійчук, заступник керівника Державної служби якості освіти.
Шановні друзі, шановні колеги, я хотів би від нашої команди, від себе особисто подякувати також вам всім за те, що ви сьогодні з нами, і за те, що ми разом з вами уже кілька років. Бо це насправді так. Ми з паном Сергієм перший раз поговорили про такий проект фактично на початку 2022 року. І з того часу ми змогли попрацювати з дуже різними категоріями учасників освітнього процесу. Ми починали роботу з вчителями. І завдяки такій нашій продуктивній співпраці ми охопили понад 8 тисяч вчителів. Але ми розуміли, що проект може бути сталим і мати хороші сталі результати тільки тоді, коли ми зможемо забезпечити наявність людей,
who would be trained and will receive all these instruments which can be received as part of this project. In the first place, that pertains to the program Safe Space, if these trained people will be in schools, and that's when we received the idea to work as school psychologists. And once this idea appeared, I am convinced more and more, whenever we have a good idea, come the resources for the implementation of this idea. So I supported this project, and the international organization Plan International supported this project. Our other international friends and partners received it, and we were able to implement this beautiful project. And I do believe that in case we did something really good here, something that would make children, especially our defenders, who every day feel a huge stress, not only from the air alerts, from explosions, but also from worrying about their parents who are at war and who are protecting us, defending us. So if we did good for these children, we live our life not in vain, and we're doing our work not in vain. So thanks to you, it's all happening thanks to all of you. I truly believe and I hope that this very nice, not just cooperation, but rather a tradition to do together good things, that it will continue. And I truly believe that whenever we have good ideas, there will be always a possibility for the implementation, and always we will have partners for this. I'd like to wish to everybody good, fruitful work, and I do believe in this continuation of our interaction. Many thanks, Mr. Ivan, and many thanks to the State Service on Quality of Education for all your support, for your colleagues, for your coordinators in the fields who helped in implementation of trainings and supervisions. Also, a very important partner of this project has been the Center of Mental Health of the Kyiv Mohyla Academy, and I wanted to pass the floor for the introductory words of the chief of the center and one of the co-authors of the program Safe Space and the scientific lead of this project, Sergei Bogdanov. Many thanks, Grigory. Colleagues, dear friends, welcome. Welcome to all the participants of this conference. Many thanks to everybody for finding time today to be here in such good numbers. That's a huge. We have such a powerful community that has been working with us, and I'm very happy. And I also want to say the words of thank you and to thank you, children, and possibly psychologists and pedagogues who are not able to join that would support children, they would support each other, where children would support each other in groups in order to live through these difficult times. And we really hope that this program that we developed at one point in time, that we developed in 2014, we really hope that we know that it was useful for you, and throughout this year, and which also placed some new challenges for us. When we started in 2014, here I have my colleagues, the coaches, with whom we started this program, you know, when this was just two small groups of psychologists from Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts. And as Mr. Ivan said, it's thousands and thousands of pedagogues and hundreds of psychologists who have joined this program. So to me personally, that's a great pleasure. We hope that this program has been tested by time. When we developed this program, we were listening to the opinion of children. We were listening to the ideas of pedagogues and psychologists. In other words, we would always jointly develop these programs. We would ask questions, we continue to ask questions. Everybody who participated in this project, everybody knows how often and in various ways we are asking people, we are asking children who are participating, pedagogues, psychologists, the educational institutions, and it's not by chance. We are really listening and hearing your words, and every time this program is slightly changed, slightly adapted, because we have the conditions changing. We started when this was just the beginning of the war, then it was a very long-lasting conflict at the east, then there was COVID and the war, then the full-scale invasion. So all of this every time would force all of us to find some new ideas to make sure how to support the pedagogues here and now. As Ms. Alexandra said, it's very important that is ready to give this potential and the resource to help here and now, not to wait when it's going to be later, that we can do something for children, for the whole pedagogical community. So today we will have a lot of interesting presentations because this project has put up various challenges in front of us, and we, with our team, we would overcome these challenges. Maybe something wasn't working perfectly immediately, and we would need some lengthy time to devote to find these approaches. And that also pertained to referral of children and working with graphs and schedules. You will hear a lot of interesting things. And I would also like to believe, and I'm also joining my colleagues who said that this will be just one more next stage of our work. We know that these instruments that you have received from us, they will be working further after the completion of this project. But also from our side, from the side of the Kyiv Mohyla Academy, we would put maximum efforts to make sure that the program itself would develop. We would take as much efforts as possible to search additional financing, engaging new partners. And we are thankful once again to all of you for the support. We are thankful to Plan International, Ukraine, Sweden, to the State Service of Quality Education, all the teams who are presented today by Mr. Ivan, by Ms. Alexandra. And I wish everybody a fruitful conference. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sergey. Truly, colleagues, it's a great product, the program of Safe Space, and it was founded on evidence-based methods. Always with this product, you can work very much surely, but in every project, we are permanently measuring and achieving the results which we are planning, and this will be explained to us by our colleague Katerina Garbar, who was actually doing the monitoring and the evaluation of the research part of the project. I will now quickly explain about the project and about the program, and I will pass the floor to Ms. Katerina so she could say what is actually coming out of this. I will talk what we planned. We had certain changes, and that's where we put together to share the experience. The idea of the project was to provide pupils and educators, namely school psychologists, the access to integrated, inclusive services for mental health and psychological care services that will improve their health condition and increase their resilience, as well as to prevent negative coping mechanisms of overcoming difficulties. The idea was reached through working with school psychologists. So that is, we conducted trainings of psychologists. The psychologists would do group work with children, and at the same time the psychologists would receive support, the supervision support from their coaches. This was also the group supervisions, and tomorrow there was a need for some individual supervisions, so we introduced that as well. And as Sergei said, we also meant to do the referrals. Within the framework, we were able to refer 100 children who received more individual, more deep support from the therapists. So the result of the projects that we are seeing, we planned to cover with group work, with some correctional and developmental work under the Safe Space program, more than 10,000 children, most vulnerable children, and we understand what was the fact. Also foresaw 100 individual sessions with at-risk children, their parents and class teachers, where psychologists could do with children, actually with their parents and even classroom teachers, in order to provide for the effective referral. The second result of the project, the second outcome, this was the improvement of qualification and studying school psychologists, to how to work under the safe space. We planned in the project that we would have 2 teams of psychologists, 190 psychologists that were in the previous project and 210 new psychologists. We also thought that the project will work in the summer, and we can do this summer classes, but it didn't work out. That's why we have increased. We started the group work starting from September, and we have increased the number of group work that was done by psychologists, so we have a bigger number of supervisions, and there was also the need for individual supervisions. And in the second, we also thought about that our coaches should have given to the school psychologists. And the third important project was the psychoeducational component. We would share information in various channels. We would do various events in order to increase awareness in terms of recognizing and responding to traumatic events, psychological disorders, and various interpersonal conflicts among children. The project was implemented in the hybrid format, both online and offline, so this format was even changed throughout the project. Like in Sumy Oblast, some started in the offline mode, then they moved to the online mode through evacuation or through some other security problems. The projects engaged 11 target oblasts,
Київська область, а також ті області, які зараз
also
є
the occupied Kiev Oblast.
Як зазначалося, фактично ядром цього
Also, the
проєкту
core
є
of this project,
програма «Безпечний простір».
there's a program of safe space.
І фактично
And basically, the focus of this program is to improve the resilience of children and to decrease the manifestation of stress caused by traumatic events, as well as to increase the ability of pedagogical workers and psychologists to provide psychosocial support to students. A few words about the program Safe Space. As it was mentioned, the program is implemented since 2015. It is based on some evidence-based methods and basically has gone through the practical implementation, practical approbation, and it is approved by the Ministry of Science and Ukraine. Education, the program consists of 4 main components. The first component is the building of a positive psychological climate in the classroom. In this block, we are working with the school teachers to make sure that they have that they would take care about the psychological resources, and they would need to care about the emotional condition of children and creating this safe psycho-emotional environment in the classroom. The second component is the group work with children. It's basically psychologists who have gone through this training part of the program. They are conducting group work, group studies with children, and at the same time they get supervision support from coaches. So this is like an integral part of the program in order to go through the full course of training under the Safe Space program and to receive a certificate of this. The psychologists are not only enough just to listen to the coaches, but they are, it's important, it's mandatory that they would conduct 2 cycles of this group classes. It's twice per 7 classes, 2 groups with children. Also in the program, we have the part of the group work with children and part which is devoted to the professional growth and the emotional support of pedagogues. In this project, there is a big part that is devoted to referrals. This was an important component. Separately, we did training of the school psychologists to make sure they would correctly communicate with parents, with teachers, in order to effectively organize such a referral. So they would have some understanding that their children would get this support from the professional psychologist. At this, my presentation, here I would want to pass the floor. I want to give the floor to my colleague, to Katerina Harbar, that will share with us, with whom we have implemented this project.
Так, мене звати Гарбар Катерина, і в цьому
My
проєкті я
name
була
is Harbar Katerina, and I was engaged.
І я, як сказав Григорій, розповім про такі головні
And I
результати.
will talk about the main outcomes for the implementation.
Так, отже, активна фаза проєкту почалась всередині
The active phase of the program was in the mid of August, and within 1.5 months we had done 33-day trainings under the Safe Space program, and some 300 psychologists would go through the psychologists. Some were not able to be present, so altogether 287 new psychologists successfully went through the training. And we had done more than 700 supervisions. It's less than we planned in the beginning, and the bigger part of it is the group supervisions.
взяли участь 343 психологи.
343 psychologists participated in the supervisions, and every participant would take part in some 12 supervisions, and altogether 288 school psychologists had done group work with children, and the number of groups from 1 to 6 children that talks about different possibilities of school psychologists, and altogether did more than 6,000 group works with helping more than 9,500 children. The important component was the evaluation of the influence of the program on children, and let me explain to you about our previous evaluation. This evaluation was in the measuring of changes by comparing indicators that pertain to the psycho-emotional condition received pre and post classes. So we would measure the level of PTCR, PTSD, PTSD. Also, we use the instrument which is called CRIAS-8. It includes 8 statements that evaluate 2 cluster syndromes, that's intrusion and avoidance. So 17 and higher score certifies to the high level of symptoms. Also, we were evaluating the resilience. We used the screener of resilience that was developed by the Center of Mental Health, NOCMA. They would evaluate 5 factors of resilience, namely the support of the family, directedness, optimism, health, and extraversion. And the results of our initial investigation and evaluation showed that some almost 40% of children had a high level of PTSD symptoms. CRIAS-8 score was at the level of 17 or higher before the participation in the program. And in general, we see that a significant decrease of symptoms of PTSD. This average score in terms of intrusion, it does really certifies to a high level of traumatic events and better recollections, as well as decreasing the average score with the scale avoidance. That means that children started to avoid people, places, ideas which remind them about traumatic events, and that certifies to the effectiveness of the proposed methodology, and it really certifies to the overall improvement of the condition. Also, after the participation in the program, some 67% of these children received a significant decrease of symptoms below level 17, which certifies to the significant improvement of the psychological condition, but at the same time, some 20% showed only a slight reduction in symptoms. So the level of symptoms remained quite high. So these results show that there may be less symptoms, but still there is a share of children that require some additional support and referrals. Also, the results of the previous evaluation of the program impact certified that majority of children have shown an increase in the level of resilience, namely 75%. We can see that the average level of all indicators of resilience improved. Children started to feel more support from the family that can lead and can certify to better communication. It also subjective feeling of one's health, maybe because of less stress. The children also became more sure in terms of reaching their goals and overcoming difficulties, and there's been a better score in terms of openness and extraversion. So yes, these all indicators certify that children have better chances to overcome life challenges, and that this program did have the comprehensive influence on children. These were our main achievements. Colleagues, that's it from my side. In case there are any questions, I would be very happy to reply. Thank you, Katarina. That's how we agreed that out of this After the presentations, we will have the possibility to ask one or two questions. Colleagues, if you have any questions, please raise your hand and ask them. In case there are no questions for the time being, you can put them either in chat or you can note them down and you can ask them later, especially that the second part of the conference will be moderated by Katerina, who stays with us. And in case there are no questions, then I would like to ask Ms. Vita Udavenko to explain to us about her experience in the implementation of the program of Safe Space. I would like to ask our technical support to bring up the presentation of Ms. Vita. Good afternoon. Very happy to welcome everybody. Many thanks for this possibility to take the floor in front of such a esteemed group, esteemed audience. I would like to share my experience in implementation of this project in my very ordinary gymnasium of a very ordinary city where we have some ordinary children from really ordinary families, not elite, not bloggers, not business people, but just really normal people. Thank you. The next. And the first thing which I wanted to start from is because I accidentally ended up in this project, but I'm very much thankful to life for coming up here, and I would like to share some small difficulties that I had during the implementation of this project, during the work over this program. So first of all, what I want to share, many colleagues would agree with me, that's a big communication situation problem with my parents. They believe that psychologists, that is almost a doctor. Why would my child need a psychologist if they don't have any problems? So all these sirens, and they also influence the mental health of a child. And of course, a child lives their normal life without showing their messages and showing their concerns. So my work was important to let you know what we want to do with children, and with the help of the communication, the telephone mode, with the meeting of the parents, I aligned the contact with parents, not go there. So this very long alerts in terms of the remote training. It's difficult to force them after Zoom also to come to some other classes with me because they are tired. They want to also have some rest. So it was, and the last difficulty which I want to emphasize, it's the absence of own study or workplace. I'm now with in one room with school policemen. I don't have any conference room, no the space, creative space, no premises that would be really fit for having such a work. I would search for some room. Children would go to some physical classes or informatics, or sometimes I was forced to do this in the corridor where we have some desks, because simply there are no free classrooms. We couldn't find them very often. Also the absence of light, this was also not possible to connect the presentation on the screen. I want to conduct something interesting because it's coming already late and it's getting dark. So irrespective of all the differences, I believe that one of my achievements in the implementation of this program, and I want to share this with you, that I had a boy in this room who was very much closed in, very silent. He was talking to his classmates in case during his work that he had to voice his opinion. He was more staying silent or was saying with the prompt of his friend. So finally he became giving his opinion, and this was very quiet, with a very quiet voice. and some really simple words, simple phrases, but he started to talk his own opinion that I can't convince. I mean, this program is working. It acts and helps to work with children as well as to overcome the difficulties that they have. In terms of the program, I would also like to thank all the authors because it's very useful, it's very actual, it is very much developed for children. All the exercises, all the they do respond to children. Every cycle, it will be very much nicely connected, that we can make the class depending on which group you have. And with this temperament, I was using the box of exercises where I was taking some exercises for introduction, energizing, depending on which group was active, too small active, active enough, emotional enough, and I also believe this is a big plus because we could really improve each classroom, knowing their capacity. Also, a big plus in this particular program was the supervision. Every
допомагали вирішити ті нагальні питання, там чи проблеми, чи незрозумілі моменти, які виникали в ході роботи. Адже під час самих тренінгів не зрозуміло було,
it was not clear which problems may arise, and this is the support of our coach Natalia and the colleagues that would help in the course of their action. So I believe this is very much actual in terms of implementing the program itself, and for the first time my work with various programs already was taking place, but it's for the first time that was used in my practice, the supervision, which is a big plus, and I'm very much thankful for this. Also, I would like to mention that these exercises are meant not only for offline, but also on remote, which help us to make some, if we needed to do this remotely, we could do this and do online. Thank you for the attention. In case you have any questions, I'm ready to answer them. Thanks, Ms. Vita. You were not able to show the next couple of slides, so I would like to ask apologies. I was so... yeah, it's okay. We will be completing now. Okay, in case somebody has questions, we can ask these questions. If colleagues do raise your hand in terms of the implementation of the program. Many thanks for sharing your challenges. That's really a situation which is not very easy when we're working also in the conditions of turning off lights, because there are problems with shelters at schools, because there are some schools that have to work in 2 shifts. There are also problems with providing with classrooms, and the question is of the absence of own. It's also very serious. But now we are finalizing our sets that we have prepared for you, and I believe by the end of this year you can get some additional resources with which you can work with children. I can see that you have a hand. Yes, I just wanted to ask you, please share what has supported you in this project, what has been most resourceful for you in this project. For me personally, the most resourceful was working with children because they inspire me. And the fact that this work I loved a lot. This project has really been so deep in my soul and my heart since day one. when I was going through the training, I understood that it is exactly that project where I would love to work. It's exactly the project which I would want to implement. This is the program that I will be working in the future after we end this. I would be recommending this to all others to be engaged to this. And I was also inspired that I'm doing something really useful, something that will really help my children. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Vita. Let's move further. I will ask Darina Chopek to share her experience in the implementation of the program Safe Space. Good afternoon. The topic of my speech, my presentation, the influence of the positive thinking on forming the stress resilience of children within the Safe Space project. The Safe Space project has become an important step in improving the condition for the psychological and emotional development of our children. In my opinion, one of the key elements is this formation of the positive thinking. It's exactly it, as a powerful instrument, develops children to develop resilience to challenges of today's world. I really loved this particular class because it's a very conscientious focus on good aspects of life, faith in own strengths, and optimistic view of the future. For the children who come in, who can do this positive thinking becomes a kind of a shield. It gives them some self-confidence and feeling of rest. And we can understand that with own interpretation, like the strengths of thought can improve things for the better. Children who believe in their own forces and strengths, they can better handle stress and failures. And after they become more positive, they're more prone in searching constructive solutions rather than getting stuck on negative emotions and negative events. We also thought that the positively set up people, they do attract other people, are easier to find friends and support, which is also an important factor in overcoming stress. And most important aspect, and we also understand that the positive thinking helps reduce anxiety and worry, which in turn increases resistance to stress. The children, with their own experience throughout their class, they have understood it on themselves. In the framework of the game, the children would share their achievements, they would support one another, which really helps to improve the positive mood. And I'm, as a psychologist during the project, I was helping children to deal with their emotions, strengthen their self-esteem, and develop positive thinking skills. Thanks to the project, while playing at the training, the children learned the techniques of positive thinking, visualization, and understood what is a subjective thought and how it can change reality. As a certain conclusion, the formation of a positive thinking is a very important component of the project, which I wanted to bring to the knowledge of children. It really helps them to develop resilience to stress, to shocks, increase self-esteem and self-confidence. Explaining what is this subjective reality, we are creating a powerful foundation for their future. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Ms. Darina. Colleagues, does anyone have any questions, comments, proposals, suggestions? Thank you. And I would like to ask Ms. Daria from also Zaporizhia to share her experience in the program. Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm also a psychologist from Zaporizhia. I would like also to present my experience of work with this very useful program, which is called the Safe Space. In my work, in the beginning, I asked a lot of questions, especially for me, which category to choose after I came to this training. Some children would require more participation in the project. In our education institution, we have more than 500 pupils. And in our opinions, in our analysis, that only the children require this, but everybody in the country would require assistance in such a project. In our work in the beginning, for myself, I tried to ask an objective as a professional who uses this program, what exactly I want to get, which useful skills, what useful information. And for me, I have opened up the following important aspects. Of course, I wanted that children would have the skills of recovery after experiencing psychotraumatic events. Of course, I wanted to make sure that there is quality support for new social conditions. We understand that we have difficult times nowadays. Also, it's the development of communication skills, emotional and volitional self-regulation of behavior, as well as creating an atmosphere of support, mutual respect, understanding, openness, benevolence, both to them and to others. So in my educational institutions, we formed actually 3 groups. These were the students from the category children with some special educational needs. In our institution, we have more than 100 of such children. These are the children of the inclusive form of education, as well as children who are studying in some small correctional classes. So these 3 small classrooms I decided to put to work. The first group, it was the pupils of the grade 4. The second group is the pupils of 6th grade. And also the third group, it's the pupils of 9th grade. We don't have 10 and 11 grade in our school. And we started to actively work. The age category was like from 10 to 16. And I would like to emphasize your attention that the children who are studying in these classrooms, they would repeat some education not once. So they stayed for the second go through the program. These are with the normal intellect, but these are special children, the children who have some peculiarities of development in cognitive spheres. Something that is typical for the autism. Sometimes this could be the disability. These are the children with nosologies, which can fit the category of children. As an example, like with poor eyesight, with poor hearing. And exactly these children were in my category, but they are no different from others. Their level of perception is slightly different, but otherwise they're like everybody. So which special moments we had together? Because the category of children with special educational needs has special development of cognitive processes. So the pupils of my second group, the children of the 6th grade, for whom I took the program, they would perceive it really well. We would have quite good results eventually. But for me personally, I understood that, for instance, for this type of age, this age category, we can use the program that is coming for the primary classes. These processes are slightly lower down. So I think for them it would be okay to have the program for the primary school. Also, there were certain other difficulties in working with this category, such as distance learning, because with the group I was working remotely, because our institution works remotely. So these are the peculiarities of work with some visualizations. It's constant concentration of attention. It's the speed of its losing, because it's a special category. Of course, there was the need for constant use of projective exercises, pictures, to make sure we can concentrate children, that the children would be able to, so that they can get tired.
цю увагу трошки підняти, так, сконцентрувати їх, так, і я
we need to,
трошки більше додавала в малюнки.
I would add a little bit more drawings, some pictures, when we were sharing the emotions and feelings. It was somehow difficult for them to build up the sentences. So we were drawing a little bit with the help of during the remote work, this emoji, this interactive reactions, responses, we could talk and we could show in these formats how we felt, our emotions. For me, as the professional, there was a small complexity, some peculiarity, let's put it this way, that it was necessary to use several online tabs at the same time. This was presentation, that's textbooks. I really was missing the printed version, that's my... And this distance format, I would really love to have a more live communication. I would really feel that at the same time it's difficult. And taking into account the support that was received, we came to this positive. This program is intense, it's very it is informative not only for children, but it also for professionals, very useful. And a lot of exercises and a lot of assignments, and one of the positive, of course, it was important to find some skills to improve stress resilience. Also, it was important to form the skills of recovery after this traumatic, psychotraumatic events. And for me, as the specialist, that's simply, this was very useful, that we had this psychological support. This was both the resource, it was also the received experience from colleagues who also would go in parallel through this program. And I'm very much thankful to our psychologist, Mr. Yevgeny, for the work that he was doing for us. Also some bright moments, these are the emotions, these are the received results. The children loved it, they are really missing such work because, of course, during remote work, we understand that we can't violate the norms in terms of staying during the online sessions, and of course they missed this work. So we are very thankful for this. In my work, I would like to say that already for the next semester I have a plan, namely the list of already the future group, because our educational institution, we will be implementing this program further, and we have some 10 kids that will be during the next semester very actively participating in this particular program. Of course, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be a part of such a wonderful and important big project. Many thanks. In case you have any questions, ready to answer. Ms. Daria, many thanks to you in the first place for your work in the project and for agreeing also to participate in the conference and to share your experience. So we now are working with our donor to make sure we can print the manuals. We have heard this feedback from coaches that they also said that it's a huge deficit, that they're really missing the printed materials. So you will get these printed materials. I also would like to thank you for saying that it would be very nice if the program could expand into other schools of Ukraine. We are also working on that, and I would like to make this as an announcement to call everybody to stay until the end of the conference. So in the end part, how the program is implemented in preschool, that this program is the integrated courses, So we have the components of the safe space and a separate project. And colleagues will also say how the program is working with the teachers. So please stay until the end. It will be very much interesting. I would also like Miss Elizaveta, how you worked in the project. Please could you share? Miss Elizaveta, are you with us? I can see that the presentation is already here. The sound is not turned on. Maybe you could change it. Please, our technical support, could you check if they have Miss Elizaveta? She can't turn on the sound. Yes, I can see. Good afternoon. Yes, thank you, thank you. Now you can hear me. Yes. Many thanks. Yes, I was given the right to talk. Very happy to see everybody. My name is Elizaveta Malcheva, and I wanted to share my practical experience of the program Safe Space. I implemented this project in the Zaryansky Institution of Secondary Education, and we understand this school was in the epicenter of all events. The next slide, please. Okay, I can do this. Over this time, I introduced myself to this project, to this program from the inside, and thanks to this program, I also could get to know children, but not only with children, but with their needs, with their problems, which is very important. So we understand that in current conditions, when children, their families, everybody is suffering from the consequences of the war, psychosocial support is a very important and actually most priority job. That's why we started to search what exactly can help us. We understand that the military conflicts, forced displacement, loss of loved ones, disruption of the usual way of life, all of this negatively affects the children. Of course, we have the war everywhere, war in the country, war in the news, war in modern songs. All of this overloads the already unformed psyche of the child and can lead to stress, and which can have long-term negative consequences for their mental health and the way they bring up as the members of the society. So to date, we have all faced new challenges. We have the modern conditions of our conditions of instruction. Not such a long time ago, we came to all of this, but we don't have any modern ways. So that's when we are trying to search for them. And one of these ways I could see in the program, which is called Safe Space. Having gone through this way from the preparation as a coach to already the implementation of a number of classes, I have some formed conclusions and facts that we can really operate with. And I would like to share not only my personal experience, but I also want to rely on our collective experience, the collective experience, I want to say our team, of our crew, our group. So what conclusions have we received? The Safe Space is a very actual program for many reasons. First reason, the program is fully adapted to modern terms of teaching, and it can have the possibility to have it gives all the interactive instruments, these boards, these platforms we can further use in our professional activity. So we not only have conducted classes and made an important contribution to the development of a child, but we also learned something new as teachers. Thank you for this. Number two, testing the materials. They meet with the modern tendencies, so they really correspond with age characteristics and modern trends. Next, the program allows to receive not only important necessary diagnostic data, but also to create a safe and trusting environment, improve relations with the children, to have this trusting environment. And as the practice shows, not only with one child, but with the whole classroom to really improve this friendly atmosphere. Next, all the children, especially who have gone through these traumatic events, they require permanent emotional support for the recovery of the emotional well-being that this program actually gives. And let us not forget that apart from children, this support is needed also for adults, because psychologists, pedagogues, everybody who's working with children, they're getting the experience. And these conditions influence on us, the conditions where we are. Also, we have some elementary professional burnout. And we also require these methodologies, instruments that were provided to us by this program, and the ones that we will be able to transfer to children. Apart from that, very important is that the program gave us supervisions. I already spoke a lot and I heard a lot today. I want to emphasize this again and thank to our coach, Ms. Daria, for our very friendly supervisions, friendly circle. Everything is warm, everything is good to share. Even if you have something negative, when you're sharing this, you feel better. And let me quote, as my colleague said, the project is also a support for myself. So these supervisions, they were in a certain sense as also like meeting the psychologist. Next one, this was already mentioned, that we are working not only with children, we are also working with parents, and most important that what we are doing, that thanks to this program, we are doing away with this stereotype thinking that to go to a psychologist is not a good idea. So we really need to have children. Ms. Elizaveta, I think the line is broken. Maybe you can turn off the video so we'll have a better connection. Unfortunately, the line is broken. It's a shame that it's taking place not only during supervisions, trainings, but even during the conference, at this presentation, and maybe she can join us a little bit later. And next, I would like to pass the floor to Ms. Irina Andrienko. Apologies, problems with the connection. Yes, we understand perfectly well. Please stay with us. Hopefully you can comment or ask some questions. Yes, welcome colleagues. Many thanks for the possibility to talk today and to have the possibility to share my experience. I'm a practical psychologist in the Pervomaysk Lyceum. That's a small hromada in the territory of the Mykolaiv Oblast. This is one of the hromadas that suffered the most, because in our hromada, out of 11 education institutions, all are ruined, no one survived. So we had the possibility this year to implement the program of Safe Space in 2 formats. I was lucky because this possibility, this opportunity appeared with the children of the 1st grade who were studying in the shelter, and I was conducting these meetings offline. This is the experience with which I'm quite missing a lot, because you can see real changes, because via the screen it's not always possible to do. I had this year 3 groups, actually. One is 1st graders. We had 8 participants and 2 groups of 5 graders with whom I worked within the online mode. That's why I will share what I managed in the first place. I would like to thank for the possibility to learn, because with the program Safe Space, I was known a little bit earlier, but this was the experience before the war, other children, other opportunities, other attitude towards this project. When I was proposed to participate in the Safe Space program, and we received the proposal to go through the training, I agreed because I believe this is a very much needed work, and that is very necessary for the psychologists nowadays. Why we would have some small, I mean, I can't say that they're really difficulties, but some aspects where a psychologist with experience was able to respond and was very flexible. The problem was that the children of the first grade still can't read, so I changed this methodologies to some pictures. I was trying to help them to visualize with some cards, use some templates to complete the task. Like, for instance, when it was an exercise to make a portrait of their friend, it was clear that it would be very difficult for them to do this. So I found some templates over the internet. It's good that there are a lot of them, they're different. It was easy for children to write that. They could easily see the emotions. Somebody was also mentioned the color of the hair. So that was really improving and eased the work for the children, and they felt very happy to fulfill these jobs, to fulfill these assignments. Why I had this possibility? First of all, thank you for the opportunity that was mentioned in the textbook, that you would give several exercises when we talked about the traumatic event, about the traumatic events. In the manual, we had 2 exercises. One of them is called the safe place, and the alternative for this exercise was also the tree of strengths. It was very clear that the safe place for my children would be another traumatic experience, because the majority of my children are at the moment not residing in our village because their houses are ruined, and the safe place where they would feel comfortable, this of course was their homes, their apartments, their toys. So thank you for the possibility that it's given in this manual, this exercise, which is called the Tree of Strengths, where children would draw trees that symbolize their resource, their strengths, that would give them the possibility to get strengths and to continue their studies. Also in the first grade, I conducted some classes and we talked about emotions. It's very difficult for children to identify these emotions, and was very difficult to understand what exactly these emotions are. So to help the children, I used this game, which is called Memka and Mimka, where the cards are used very nicely. They show various emotions, so it's like a prompt, not only to the pedagogue, but also to children, and they would feel easier to understand the emotion that they would have. And it was very interesting that I was conducting this exercise offline with the children of the first grade. They were able to receive these cards with emotions, understand them, to support their classmates, to show these emotions. So all the exercises that are mentioned in the manuals, they're really cool, they're really super, they really help to cope with the objectives that we place. But to make sure we can strengthen them, I would like to thank for the possibility of receiving supervisions, and the trainers that we have selected for supervisions. They are absolutely great. They are absolutely great. And that experience that we have, our Hromada is turned away. We don't have the psychological support. We only have 1 psychologist. The rest are not provided. So possibly I could talk that maybe in this program we could use not only school psychologists, but also the pedagogues who don't have the psychological provision. And this could be this support also for the pedagogues of schools where we don't have a psychologist. I would like to thank for this opportunity to learn and for the instruments that can be used, not only in the framework of the implementation of the program's objectives. We can implement even individual classes and use them accordingly. They're very easily adapted. They're very nicely perceived. They have their own results and outcomes. Thank you. Will not take your time. Thank you for your attention. If you have questions, I will be very happy to answer. Thank you for sharing your experience, especially this is the question about the provision of the availability of school psychologists in schools. We also put it aside as a very important note because we do have the program for pedagogues, which is much more contentful when they not only can give support to themselves, but also to their colleagues, and to create this safe space in the classroom and to help children. Thank you. Colleagues, do we have any questions to Ms. Irina? In case not, let's move further. Ms. Katarina, please, the floor is yours. Good afternoon to everybody. My name is Katarina Prokhorova. I will also share my experience and what was happening in my part before, because Ms. Irina was speaking before me. I had a similar program with children of the first and second graders. Because it was difficult for them to perceive any assignments, they would have difficulty in responding to some words. Then my creative part was switching in, and together with my colleagues, I was searching for alternatives, various cards, print out everything, and it's good that we have this possibility. There is the possibility to go online and to find certain things. So before we implemented this program of Safe Space, I had the experience of participating in this program, and I saw the result. I saw how this program affected children. Together with the colleague, I was engaged in conducting assistance to my colleague, and when I was doing already an independent group, my colleague also showed interest, and she started to engage to my work. So she was an assistance to me, and I'm very happy that my colleagues would also support me in the implementation of this program. So before the start, the parents would ask a lot to conduct some programs and to raise these topics that they would not discuss with children. So this program of Safe Space also gave us this possibility. Nowadays, in the conditions of war, when our children are seeing stress every day, the creation of the society of equal opportunities has become not just urgent, but also a vital task. The Safe Space program, which has been operating since 2015, is a vivid example of how modern psychological methods can help children cope with today's challenges. This program helps in the formation of psychological stability, builds a positive environment in educational institutions, and supports children who have experienced psychotraumatic events. And actually, I wanted to share with you this case. Searching for assignments, the cards for children, I was using the website which is called The Development of a Child, in using exercises, in choosing some nice, good things. I decided to distribute some cards in order to show kids which examples could be there. So during one of the classes for students of grades 1 and 2 held within the program, the exercise choosing pleasant things was used. Children worked with cards that helped to imagine various good and pleasant things that can be done in everyday life. One of these cards was the illustration of a child in a wheelchair. This task caused an emotional response among children. They began to share stories of their peers who were affected by the war, losing limbs or being seriously injured because of missile attacks. So exactly this card caused a lot of discussion among children. They shared the stories, and many children would say that I was asking from the mother, but the mother was not able to give me the reply. So we became those free environment that could explain to a child how to correctly talk about it. And a lot of good things were built up to help somebody, especially the ones who require this assistance. And this is really was a surprise, because the second and the first grade, they're really small ones, but they raised such important subjects. The words and opinions of children showed their ability to be sympathetic. Young participants of the class talked about the importance of supporting such children, about how you can help them feel needed and included in society. These were not just children's stories, they were the voice of the future generation, which understands that helping others begins with each of us. Safe Space is not only a program, it's also a recovery after stress. It's important to support one another and believe in the power of goodness. The classes of the program from children's skills of acceptance, support and trust, which are transported into the consciousness of adults capable of creating a society without barriers. I would also like to say that creating a safe environment is about accepting people as they are, both physically and morally. It's about open hearts, acceptance, and equal opportunities for everyone, regardless of their circumstances. Every lesson, every exercise, every story within the Safe Space program is a step towards a more humane society. Thanks to such programs, we are raising a generation capable of creating a safe environment for everyone, regardless of their life circumstances. An open and equal society is not a dream, but rather a reality that we create together with our children. Their little hearts are already teaching us a great truth. By helping others, we build a country where everybody has a place, support, and faith in the best. After this class, we also had parents approaching us and thanked us for raising this topic. We just touched upon this subject, which was of great concern, and many parents were not able to reply. They didn't know how to start speaking to a child, what the child knows. So, because of such exercise, we saw how important it is for children to talk about the war, that what they're feeling nowadays, but what also surrounds them, that becomes unclear to them. And the children would share some unrealistic stories, and I wanted to actually explain to you the story that happened during our groups. Thank you, Katerina. Thank you for sharing your experience and the experience of children and what they were feeling, what they were. But where are you from? Because you didn't say from which oblast you are, from which city you are. I'm from the city of Zaporizhia, that's the frontline city, and exactly the program of Safe Space. When we conducted this, the situation deteriorated significantly, permanent shellings, sirens, so it was very much important that we talked not only about the programs, the classes, but they also helped to live through this experience of war, and they could talk the subject that were important for them, something that they didn't talk with their parents. Thank you, Ms. Katerina. Colleagues, do we have any questions? If not, let's go further. Ms. Liliana Yarova. Welcome, dear participants. My name is Liliana Yarova. I'm the practical psychologist of the Sumy Specialized School number 17 of the city of Sumy. I'm also the crisis consultant, and I'm the correctional pedagogue that is working with children who have special educational needs. Today, I want to share my experience of the implementation of the Safe Space program in a remote format involving students with special educational needs to such support groups. For you to be a little bit more clear, I would like to tell you that our institution has 1,000. In our institution, we have 1,600 pupils, Mostly, these are the children with some atypical disorders or some individual learning or family patronage, as well as pupils who go to inclusive patronage. These are the special educational needs kids. I would like to tell you that at this stage of the development of our society, a very important aspect is the barrier-free access. It's exactly about creating the barrier-free educational environment is one of the main priorities of the state educational policy, which should provide for equal opportunities and free access to the education for all citizens. We have to take care that the psychological services would also be accessible to all children, regardless of whether this child has special educational needs or not. Children traumatized by the experience of the war, children who have found themselves in difficult life circumstances, children with disabilities, children who are under pedagogical patronage due to illness, all of them, they are children with special educational needs who need our attention and our support in the educational environment. The point is that the peculiarity of the implementation in my education, of course, this is Sumy. Sumy is suffering a lot from Shaheds and from missiles, so this program was implemented when we had the deterioration of the security situation. We were able only to use it in the remote mode, but we already have the experience when we are implementing the remote mode. We are working in the Google Doc space for education, so using Google Meet, Google Forms, that all allows us to make it quite well and quite optimal. I was working in 3 groups. We had put together 3 groups. The first group, it's the students of 2nd grade, and I'd like to join the opinion of the previous speakers. This is exactly the category where you need to get yourself out 100% as a coach, because you need to adapt the material, you need to find something that would keep the attention of children. The second group is the students of 3rd and 4th grade, also quite dynamic work, but it's not so energy consumption like for the 2nd graders. And the 3rd group, it's the pupils of 5th and 7th grade, for whom communication is the environment. In case the topic is very interesting, that really finds response within them. For each group, we use the mixed format. For each group, we involved kids with some normotypical development, as well as pupils with special educational needs. Also, we created the Viber groups for parents to make sure we can get some organizational support, or let's put it this way, to fix the skills that we mastered during our classes. Many thanks to teachers, the children of the 2nd, 4th grade, because they were people who thought alike. They work on the skills that we work with children during classes, so they fixed the skills. Whenever they received a response from children, the children would say, okay, this exercise I can do independently, and this I'm doing together with my parents, and then I can be successful. And you understand, for me, as a psychologist, engagement of parents and engaging this home circle, it does help to implement, and it's very helpful. Also, I also created some classrooms for teachers, Google classes, where children could share this. So this possibility to engage children with normotypical development and the children with special educational needs. In psychology, there is this notion of win-win benefits when both sides get the advantages. What's important for children with special educational needs? That's the experience of communication, that's interaction and support in a group. Very inspiring when such a child is joining. They're looking forward to such class. They look forward to receiving the possibility to talk about the emotion, to share a certain experience, to work on it. So you see how truly this program helps children, helps to go through difficult events, and helps to realize yourself. Take into account we need to take into account the individual characteristics and needs of such children. I would engage children with easy, light and moderate complexities. In case we engage children with some heavy complexities, then we need to look at each case separately, because a child has the resource to be engaged. But I was working with children who would have light and moderate complexities, so the program is effective. It does allow children to expand the communication circle, show their adaptation possibilities, to really show themselves. Also, it's what's important that for children with normotypical development, it envisages the development of empathy and tolerance. Our society becomes inclusive, and the society should be ready to accept different children, people with amputations, with disabilities, and with certain disabilities. So if it's brought up since childhood, it does give certain results. So children with normotypical development, they get the good development of empathy, and they get the skills of creating this psychological assistance. It really provides for the good, safe environment, which is very close to our real life. So what has this program been useful for me as a psychologist? That's the necessary instrument in terms of psychosocial support. That's a very nice amount of exercises that allow to have the program in the offline mode, remote mode, to adapt to the distance mode with the usage of toys, certain art therapy exercises, using those energizers where you can make a lot in order to support that very fragile mental health. So what does it give to children? These are to parents, it does create the possibility to have this family circle that can work on this traumatic experience. They get the support of a child. So this experience is also very important, and the one that they're using further. Some children also, I was using the instrument of the mechanism of referral. That's why children who were missing to work during this class, they were referred, and they received also the experience of professionals. This is also very important plus of this program. And I would like also to mention that it's been also very important, this supervisional support for me as a psychologist and us as participants. So I would like to thank Ms. Daria for that warm atmosphere, for this really working atmosphere that allowed us to implement this program. And I want to thank the organizers of the program for this really important instrument that I would be using in the future. Many thanks for the participation. Ready for your questions. Thank you, Ms. Liliana. In case there are any questions, colleagues, please raise your questions. I would like to thank to Ms. Liliana that you give this special attention to really talk about the kids with some special educational needs, and this fact about the importance of this universal design of the program, that this program can easily be adapted to various formats of work. Thank you. In case there are no questions, then I would like to pass the floor to Ms. Ludmila. Welcome, colleagues. Can you see my presentation? We can hear you, but we don't see the presentation. Okay, now it's coming up. Yeah, you have it? Good. Once again, welcome, colleagues. From your permission, I wanted to make a more emotional presentation compared to the previous presenters in the conditions that this project was implemented. That's kind of the feeling that I have felt. So to your attention, I propose the presentation, A Safe Space in the Unknown, my story of participation in the Safe Space project. I'm the practical psychologist of the Glukhiev Secondary School number 1, Lyudmila Ivanivna Gabenko, and I represent Sumy region. So the story of our participation of our students is full of uncertainty. The situation when I registered was relatively quiet, if you can call it, when you're located 12 kilometers from the border. So I was sure that I would be able to conduct these classes without any problems in the offline modes. But when the courses for the preparation to the project was started, our city started to be actively shelled. 3-5 guided bombs, 10 drones, and other gifts from our neighbors. I was not able whether I could collect the group, whether I should go away from my work environment and to search my own safe space in this endless world. The main shock that was the destruction of the building of our school, 3 guided bombs, and our building that our school that gave the beginning of life to all education. It was simply not there. I can remember we were going with colleagues in ruins and we were cursing Russians, then started the mandatory evacuation. There was a very big uncertainty, shock and fear, but we survived. So the situation calmed down. Of course, we don't have the offline classes, but the remote format, it gives certain possibility of interacting with children. So in organizing the participation of students in this program, I was very much thanked by the classroom mothers of 4A and 4B classroom. I received the most active children who would have the needs and the desire to talk, irrespective of the circumstances of the security situation. The classes were positive. Most of the exercises for the children went with like a big bang. Okay. The age and individual typological features of the development of the students of our school who became participants in the safe space gave the opportunity to perceive and to understand the tasks and perform them successfully. If we are to evaluate the result, we can say that the objective was reached. If we talk about the achievements, then it is worth talking about additional opportunity to live your experience with your peers. See the situation and emotions through the eyes of other children. Understand your feelings. Understand that you are not alone, no matter how difficult the situation is. And at the same time, how banal this may seem, this is simply additional time for interaction and communication with peers and adults, the time that was taken away from children by the war. Even remotely, without hugs and handshakes, is just time spent with friends, classmates, an opportunity to talk and share. Participation in this project and in other composition, in other circumstances, maybe we would have a different result, but we have what we have. So this can't be changed. The safe space is really the possibility of the first psychological assistance for me personally, as a psychologist. This is the job, do it, and be distracted. So the first psychological assistance also for my colleagues, because in the shock that we were at that time, these mothers of the classroom, they were so responsible. They helped me to put together these groups, and this was an additional way to organize students to understand that the life continues. And an important space in implementing of this project belongs to supervision, talking to colleagues, talking to coaches, mirroring the situation, understand that other schools, as well as children, of course, the war is ruining everything, so it's important to share your concerns and your achievements. Support and understanding the situation is very important, and that's a huge success. sometimes it's important to look at the situation through the eyes of other colleagues. The look of the situation on behalf of another person, just looking from the back, from the side, you can see yourself. You can't see without the mirror the makeup that is running down your face. But we need cosmetics, but the mirror is needed for everybody. That's about the role of supervision. If we talk about gratitudes, it is worth mentioning to thank pupils with whom I have worked for their immediacy and activity. I wanted to thank to the parents for the permission to work with their children, for their feedback. I wanted to thank to our classroom mothers. Same as we said, truly, your case proves that the project can be started in one format, and next there could be the security situation can change, how it changed, and the project may continue in a different format. But most importantly, that the project can continue. And thanks also for this metaphor about the supervision as a mirror. Thank you. Colleagues, do we have any questions to Ms. Ludmila? If not, then I would like to ask Nadia Samohval to continue and to share their experience. Many thanks. Good evening. I have the electricity cut for the second time. I apologize, but I will be working in the darkness, but it's important that I also share my experience. It's important to continue. Can you put up your presentation? First of all, allow me. Miss Nadia, now you can turn on your presentation. Yes, can you see it now? Yes, I can. I'm the social pedagogue of the Swekska Specialized School of the first and third degrees, number 2 Lyceum. Our school is also in the Sumy region. We're also 15 kilometers from the border. I want to tell you that when I started my mission in the project, that's training and also working with children, we were actively shelled. That was already in August. The colleagues were leaving. This was a vacation. So in this safe space, we have this good expression on the wings of support. So for me personally, as the social pedagogue, this was the space on the wings of support, and this space I worked with my students. I was working in the program with children of 5th and 10th grade. This was 3 groups. I chose them because these classes went through the adaptation period. They were changing the composition. They were living from villages, or they were talking to us from the more remote villages that are closer to the border. So this was a huge difficulty. So in the beginning of the program implementation, it was very clearly seen that all pupils are very closed. Everybody's frightened. Everybody was so closed in. Nobody was wanted to talk openly. They didn't manifest themselves. So working with this safe space program, it became this. This was like a helpful oasis amidst all of this chaos. I also want to tell you that the children in our space really were eager to share, help each other. And that led to the fact that they started to adapt quicker to the new team, to the new conditions where they moved, and these children who also stayed in our village. So we were working on the skills of independent psycho-emotional recovery after the traumatized events. We were working remotely. The remote format, I can tell you that the remote format and the exercises and the energizers and the group rituals, everything is well perceived very much. And in reality, it does unite, it does support children. also remotely. And you know, this important aspect that the kids do require this assistance. I want to tell you that was in all groups without exception, there was the atmosphere of acceptance, support. I had this experience in one of the groups. We had one boy who was just an observer. Apologies, my child has come in.
Він був спостерігачем. І ось
He was the observer, and after the second class, there was the topic of conflicts. We talked about the conflicts, and for me it was important that the children would open up, they would start talking to each other. So he really expressed his wish to say his associations to the word conflict. So step by step, after each exercise, he continued to work with us. And by the way, in the first grades, this boy was proposed to be trained under a different program, inclusive program, but it happened what had happened, and at the moment he's working with the camera turned on, he talks and he supports. Also, I had a group of girls in the 5th grade who were very active before shellings. They were talking, very actively participating, but then this long sirens, they made their problem. They became closed in. They started to change the mode of actually the absence of the mode of the day. They are panicking, they are getting concerned, they are getting frightened, they are avoiding communications and cooperation, but the exercises are built up in such a way that we first about ourselves, step by step, we are working through, and the children are getting sucked in, and there is evolutionary moment starts in the program in such a way. So I would like to tell you that the majority of children talked a lot of their stories of traumas. Of course, everybody was going through different aspects, but what actually impresses is that our space is important, and every child was really acting themselves. They really talked what is bothering them. Without any exceptions, a lot of children would have a big wish to meet, and although it was a remote mode, we were receiving messages. Actually, we worked on Microsoft Teams. I would permanently get messages, shall we have a meeting? We were interrupted because of the holidays, and you can't imagine how they are sharing, although we are remotely. Every meeting charges. And we also had this aspect in our communication with children about the recovery of resources. There was a ritual of the group. The 5th graders, I was coming out after the meeting, I was coming out from these meetings, you know, was high on adrenaline, as if I was resurrected. I would have a song about Chip and Dale, about these hamsters who were saviors. You know, to sing online is difficult, but I don't know, this aspect when we are all united, everybody singing. I had also the feedback from the parents. My parents said that they were in the next room, in the neighboring room. The parents would connect, they start singing. Before starting work, we also did via the Google Forms some surveying, so a lot of parents said that the children would have different disorders, emotional disorders, after all of these traumatizing events. The consequences of the war were so different, but a lot of parents got themselves together. We had a lot of consultations with parents. They also worked on some knowledge and some skills how to support children. That's something that really unites. We have this cohort that we have changed the relationship. We are all friends. We are all supporting each other. We are joking. We are crying together. That's all good. And you know what was the most important aspect? We started to talk. This positive thinking went around. We support each other. We are becoming happy for one another. And I can see these dynamics, all of these groups, grade 5 and 10, they all got closer. Children become more active, they show initiative, and there are a lot of feedback from teachers, what did you do? And I say, we were working in the program Safe Space. Some children would become friends, and this is something that I'm also seeing, and I'm seeing a lot of it. So this emotional aspect, apologies, I loved it over this short period of time. I really loved the evolution of our group. That over this period of time, from the children who were like silent, frightened, they started to gradually open up. This group experience is very important. The children would increase their resilience. They received sureness of oneself, support of oneself. They really improved their interpersonal relationship. They started to talk because the parents were complaining. The parents said that they don't want anything. They don't want to talk, communicate, but they came motivated. They were closer, much closer knit. And also the parents got this support. It's the works of our students, of our children. To your attention, I would also like to go back to the group. Apologies for staying in the darkness. The classroom moderator of our group, it's our Miss Daria. You know, when I just started to work in this program, I was also going through these times when I was bringing my children out of the village, and it was also very difficult for me. But every Friday, that's like a regime that really brings you to reality, that grounds you. But after these meetings of ours, we received the support, we received the better understanding, we received the better communication that was missing. And by the way, a lot of interesting information. So I would like to thank Ms. Daria and you, the organizers. This distance format is also very important for children. I'm talking about this, our Svezka school, and I'm seeing this result. So the program is very much viable. And I have the teacher who instructs in the 5th grade. She said, what did you do with children? She proposed to me to work with children of this. So this evolution is ongoing. Yes, part of our program, we do know that a lot. There's been a challenge of losing electric energy, but that didn't interfere with your joining and make this good presentation. Now I'd like to ask Alexander Savchenko. Good afternoon. Allow me to show my presentation in a moment.
Так, я вибачаюсь, але в мене дуже слабкий інтернет.
Apologize, I have really weak internet. I will be without video because otherwise you will not hear me. Thank you for the possibility to present the experience in psycho-emotional support of children. I am from Vysokopilya. I'm the practical psychologist of the Vysokopilya Lyceum of the Kherson Oblast Council. We're working with children. We had 3 groups. These were the kids of grade 5, grade 6. Sorry, 5, 7, and 8. The children loved it, and I want to mention that all classes were offline. Although the children are on remote, they were very happy to come to our offline group work. They loved it, especially the 5th graders. The only thing that was not making them happy, they said that it's not enough to have 1 class. They really wanted to have more. They wanted to have more communication. They wanted to have this live communications, and since we are also not far from the occupiers, some 20 kilometers, we used to be also the occupied territory. Thanks to our armed forces, we were deoccupied. A lot of children returned, but a lot are still staying abroad. And those kids who have returned, they wish to communicate. They're missing this emotional live communication. They want to be together. They want to share their emotions. So thanks to this project, we have reached this. And the main objectives that we try to solve is to provide this safe space for children. I will make the presentation full screen.
Місце для навчання, ігор та розвитку.
We wanted this to provide a safe space for children to learn, to play and develop, provide a psychological assistance to cope with traumatic experience and assistance. So which results which have received? This is the so-called social, this is the psycho-emotional status of children. The children's levels of anxiety and aggressiveness have decreased. Children have become more open to communication. They used to be going only in the online mode. They didn't have that trust to one another. But later, when we started to talk and we started to discuss and we started to engage children, they really loved this. And they were opening up. They would receive some smiles. They would receive some hope for the future. Let's put it this way. Recovery of communication between children, increasing the level of trust. Also, they loved the exercise called introduction, the group rituals that they came up themselves, and during all these classes they kept these rituals. So during the work, the most interesting was to work in pairs, in groups. They loved this acquaintance exercise. The children would talk about their thoughts, opinions. They would keep the rules of work in groups. They created the diary of good things, good causes. They planned what good things they will be do throughout the week. And then they will be sharing with their friends during the upcoming classes. They participated actively in energizers. We emphasize the emotional and physical exercises. Children loved it. This space should create the possibility for the development. Our participation showed that thanks to this joint effort support, we can create conditions where children could feel children again. So creating of a safe space in school provides its effectiveness as the instrument for supporting children who have suffered from the consequences of the war. It helps not only to provide for psychological and physical security, but to really restore childhood for the ones who have lost it. And I also wanted to say thank you to our trainer, to our coach, Daria, who with the help of supervision helped us to feel the support, to feel the possibility to share some experience, to talk to each other.
Наша група вдячна нашому тренеру.
So our group is very much thankful to this coach. That's all from my side. Mr. Alexander, many thanks for sharing your experience. From Kherson Oblast, many thanks to everybody, to all colleagues, to all school psychologists, to the participants of the project who have shared their experience. The next component of our conference of today is the conversation about the experience of implementing referrals. And that's where I would like to pass the right to moderate to Katerina Haber, and I will continue as a listener. But I would like to invite Oksana Zaleska, who used to be the coach and one of the co-authors of the program Safe Space, who also fulfilled the functions of the clinical psychologist and who organized the referrals in the framework of this project. Good evening, colleagues. I will try to be quick because we are a little bit behind our timing. So what will be interesting, what will be known to you, I will be going very quickly. First of all, I would like to thank all the psychologists who participated in referrals. Yes, this was interesting. I was interested in this system, and we really learned its algorithms, and we cooperated with us and continue to cooperate with us because this work is ongoing. In the safe place, we are providing 3 levels of support for children. At the first level, the teacher supports the child, sees their needs, knows how to read bad behavior. At the second level, the school psychologist supports the teacher, the child, involves parents, and offers participation in the Safe Space Group program. And at the third level, the child is supported by a clinical psychologist of the Mental Health Center of the National Academy of Medical Sciences, when a child is referred by the school psychologist. Yes, we have cooperated in such a way within our referral. So, referral from the teacher to the psychologist of the education institution. So what does it help? So the psychologist of the school or kindergarten examines the situation and monitors the child's condition, provides support and recommendations to the teacher, provides support to parents, and engages the child in specialized classes, group or individual, under the Safe Space program. And in case the program doesn't give the necessary result and the child requires additional support and their levels of stress would not decrease to the level we would want it, the psychologist can refer a child to professionals outside of the institution. In this particular project, this was the professionals from the Center of the Mental Health of the Academy of Sciences, also our colleagues who were engaged in this project. We have informed 2 ways for the referrals. One of them is the psychologist that refers the children through a special form, and the other way was a direct, when the psychologist was informed parents, and the parents can independently turn to this center. We didn't have that many requests. We actually expected there would be more, but this happened in any case. So after the form is completed, the form of the referral by parents or by psychologists, the professional from the mental health center would contact the parents and organize the work. It was mostly online, but in Kiev and in Kiev Oblast, as well as in Odessa, we had the possibility to have some face-to-face format. In general, every family could get some 10 free consultations lasting some 50 minutes. In some cases, this was less consultations, in some cases, slightly more consultations. That depended on the needs of a child, of a specific family, and from the necessity to refer a child further. For instance, some cases were referred with the requests that are very specific, namely, this is the disorders of some behavioral disorders, various behavioral disorders that are classified already as disorders of deficiency syndromes, attention deficiency syndromes. We also would refer them to other centers that would give them free of charge assistance in the framework of various projects, and they give assistance exactly under these problems for children. In the process of our work, the psychologist gives recommendations to parents, working individually with parents, and gives some recommendations how to support a child further. Which indicators were based on this period between September and November? 58 boys and 48 girls. So, and same number was referred. The children of 4 to 7, 10 kids, 9, 10 years, 35 kids, 11, 13, 21 child, and the biggest number was of adolescents, 14, 18. So 9 and 10, and the elder adolescent group, it was quite a big group of children. And the biggest referral was to of Sumy region, 29, and Odessa Oblast. These were the biggest number of cases. The rest are less, but other oblasts also 2, 3 children from each child. And the requests was which the children were referred, that's experiencing loss, disturbing thoughts and fears, sleep disturbance, depression, behavioral disorders, ADHD, oppositional defiant disorder, suicidal thoughts, difficulties in communications, logoneurosis, eating disorders, learning difficulties, and loss of motivations. So what were the difficulties that faced the clinical specialists? First of all, it's about the peak load on the clinical service because the process started. We didn't expect it ourselves because in the beginning everything was happening very slowly. We could gradually accept cases. There was no rush and no huge demand in the beginning, but in some time this demand sharply increased and we received some 60 requests just in 2 days. This was quite a serious challenge. It was important to urgently expand the clinical team from 7 specialists to 19 specialists. Thanks God it worked out. We engaged additional specialists, and now we have the possibility to process all the cases all the way to the end of the year, and we'll have the results in the end. Another challenge was the referral of children with requests that are not related to traumatic events. They were not connected with traumatic events directly, and we had to still give them support. So we were consulting parents. It's once, maybe twice or 3 consultations, and referring to the centers of school family that are specialized on these disorders and give a certain number of free of charge sessions for such kind of families. Part of those referred were not accompanied at school. This was one of the challenges as well, where the referral was very formal because of stress, because of other reasons, maybe not incomplete understanding how the process of referral works. The psychologist would refer children just with this assignment. They would not accompany this process, how it is meant in the referral system. And that's when the clinical professionals faced a certain resistance from adolescents. This was mainly about adolescents because they perceived this process as coercion and stigmatization, that they're being guided and something is wrong with them. So they would not understand the process itself. But these cases were not that many. The majority of cases of referrals were formed quite well. Difficulties with ensuring the stability of sessions, problems with the electricity, alarms, shelling that influenced the work itself, the work of the professionals, cancellations, movements, postponing, as well as tight deadlines for project implementation and the need to hold sessions twice or thrice a week. That was quite an intensive process of operation of our work. And one other complexity that we are running when we are completing these consultations, because children don't want to complete them. The parents and the children want to prolong this, and many times parents would love to add at least 2 more meetings, some additional meetings to the meetings that already have taken place. So these are the questions. So some preliminary outcomes. For the time being, of course, we can talk about some preliminary results because only in the beginning of January we will be analyzing all the completed cases. And definitely now we can see this, that the program has already started to work, that we have an established process of cooperation between the school, parents, and the clinical specialists. We have established further referral of children with ADHD. A lot of children experience positive changes, and even parents received a positive experience of cooperation with psychologists. So we have decrease of this concern and fear of parents to turn with psychological assistance, and I believe this will be a good influence for the future. We will have more conscientious parents who will be taking care of their children and will give them psychological assistance. Many thanks for the attention, and I'd like to pass the floor to Ms. Irina Javlik, who will present a case of working with referral and this process of cooperation with the institutions. Thank you. Good evening, colleagues. I'm Irina Zhadik. I am the psychologist of the Center of Academy of Sciences with the Safe Space. I'm familiar since 2015. That's why from my own experience, I know to which extent this program is quite viable. And after the program, some children can require some additional individual assistance, and that's when they are referred to the centers of mental health of our academy. In some cases, children don't have the possibility to participate in the program Safe Space. Sometimes these are the kids with some individual form of education. Today, I would like to get to know you with the boy named A. This was the first case of referral from the school psychologist to the team of clinical psychologists. At that time, I only knew that he was living in Odessa, and immediately I contacted the psychologist who referred this A boy. I received a lot of information from this about this child. This boy was forced to move to this family education. He can't talk, he can't communicate. He was actually brutally beating up children. There was some even doctor visits because of that. So there was some conflicts in class. And the psychologist said that this A boy, he was like that since grade 1. And when we met each other, he was already in grade 2. During our conversation with parents, it clarified that this child is from Luhansk Oblast. For me, it felt very familiar because I understood that before the full-scale invasion, I was living in a neighboring city from this family. They were evacuated in June 2022 into Odessa within just a few days while their native city was occupied. A is the elder child in the family. They also have a brother who is 3.5. During talking to the mother, I realized that the manifestations of the aggressive behavior started to show up after the boy brother was born. After the start of the full-scale invasion, the shellings increased and he became more aggressive. He said, I don't want to go to the shelter, I don't want to go to the basement, I want to do the bicycling. At that time, he had more aggression towards his brother. While the mother was putting to sleep the younger son, he was trying to kick him, wake him up. He doesn't hear his mother. He only listens to his father. So the parents state that they don't beat up this child. So I was living through a stress because his brother was born and because of the fear of shellings and losing of home where they could even take his toys. The problem of my clients with classmates started in grade 1. This was already October of 2023. So in some 1 month when he started going to school, the problem started. He started to beat up children, damage their belongings, permanent complaints from parents. That's how it lasted for 6 months. Then A moved to the remote form of education. He could only see the teacher via the screen. So this year, the boy doesn't see the teacher. He studies at school, he does homework, and the mother would bring notebooks to be checked. After the diagnostics, A shows a significant wish to come back to school. All the drawings that he drew at the session, he was connecting it all with schools. He said the planet of school, the nice flowers. I was asking him to draw a drawing without any topic. When he showed his work, he said just school with big letters. No signs of school was drawn, but describing his drawing, he was talking about the school. In one of the sessions, I asked him, do you want to go back to school? He smiled and said, yes, I want it a lot. So A transmits his need. He's crying at me through his drawings. At this moment, I received an idea. It's important to bring this child back to school because he's capable of studying. he would do 15 minutes during the session, fulfilling all my assignments, and I had quite a lot for him, and even controlled time, because at some point in time I decided to complete our work in some 45 minutes, and he told me no. He said we still have 5 more minutes. So I felt that these days I'm the only person who actually is listening to him and hearing him. And the idea about the return of R to school, I brought to the supervision, arguing that the growth of aggression started not with the arrival to school, but rather when a brother was born, a sibling transformation into school. He went to school and the child remained with the mother. So once again, the attention to him, not to the brother. Not to him, but rather to a brother. And when I asked the parents whether they want to have their child go back to school, so when I talked to parents about this and the expectation, yes, I want that our child would go to school, the mother said no, let him stay as it is. And I understood that going back to school would cause a significant fear to run into some ostracize. They would also need some support. So during the next supervision, we developed a plan how we can influence the situation via psychologists and definitely via the school. We started a more strong work with the school psychologist. I proposed to put our efforts together and to form an individual trajectory of returning A to school. I mentioned a few options, talked to a teacher to propose him to come to 2-3 lessons in the beginning, or to have him in the extended stay group, or to provide safe space in his classroom, and the boy would come to these classes, or to engage A to some offline program of safe space individually, because he definitely lacked communication. I was talking to a psychologist that he definitely doesn't have any contact with other adults. And I was motivating the psychologist as much as I could, arguing that she is this bridge between the family and school, and she can be that foundation for the boy. So nowadays, our meetings with A were ending. With the psychologist, we had several meetings, and we discussed with her how this idea of surviving idea, saving idea, how we can put it to life. She was sharing her fears about engaging him to the group. I told her that she can go to my assistance at all times, and as a result, I would have this conversation of the colleague with the mother, and they agreed that I would come to some individual classes from the safe space. So now the classes are, the boy goes to classes. This was informed to me by the psychologist who is training with him. Colleagues, I believe that exactly the safe space, the school psychologist, the whole team of ours, and this possibility of referral became for my client that savior, both that gave him the possibility to be heard and have the chance to return and have the possibility to be going to school and be part of the social surroundings. Many thanks for your attention. Thank you, Irina. Possibly somebody would have some questions. If nobody raises hands, then we should come back to our next block of the conference, and we will talk about the scaling up of the program Safe Space. And I would like to pass the floor to Olena Tkachenko, who will talk about the experience of the implementation of Safe Space program in kindergartens. Welcome, dear colleagues. Yes, I was emotionally involved in the previous presentation. Thank you, Ms. Irina. Thank you very much. Emotional. Over the last 3 years, the safe space became a significant part of my life. It appeared that I engaged to some space but my heart lives in the preschool age. I'm very happy to see so many psychologists who are supporting the school spaces, and my mission nowadays to make sure that this project could be scaled up also into the preschool institutions. A lot of challenges are there, and today I wanted to talk about the experience that we have for the second year of conducting Safe Space. So today I will talk about the experience of one of the kindergartens. We will use the photographs and open feedback, but we also received the consent for their public use. So nowadays, this safe space, we had 4 kindergartens, and all of these 4 educational institutions wish to continue this program. In all institutions, we didn't have a psychologist as the FTE at work. So in case in the preschool institution, we are saying that we do have a psychologist, but the preschool psychologist is really difficult, and this is one of the challenges because very few professionals who are ready to work with really small kids. Nowadays, we manage to support 4 institutions on a full-time basis, and even today, this safe space is the participant in this kindergarten, which has 4 groups. In more detail, I will explain to you about which challenges we faced when we worked with the previous institution. Number 1, that when we are starting the program, it's from the research of the space, because every space has its unique atmosphere, it has its unique story, history, and observation over the work of the educators. It's an important start. In this particular institution, we ran into some problems. We could see that the educators could see the change of the behavior of children, but couldn't explain this. Children would do a lot of aggressive behavior. They didn't understand, would they allow them to play military games or not. In general, before the psychologists, let's start even from the most basic things. I was that person who was introducing them to the idea who the psychologist is and how he can or she can support this institution. They didn't have interaction and experience in working with a psychologist or had the negative experience. So 90% of the people in these institutions were people with difficult life circumstances. There were a lot of IDPs, a lot of people who lost their homes and just independently they could find housing. They were just getting some new employment. They were not yet grounded. They didn't feel secure in the new place where they were. Some close relatives were military, and there was a lot of concerns concentrated on their life circumstances, and because of that it was difficult for them to understand which needs can be now with their children. That's why a huge part of the program itself, I mean, it's a little bit different because the smaller kids, they require more attention. They want to be heard by everybody. They need much more time to talk to them. So the minimum number of classes, we had actually 12. We did some training meetings for the educators, and also in the lunch hour when the children were going to sleep, a huge attention was given to the personal resource. This was something new, that somebody is taking care of them, that their needs are also of interest to somebody. We understood that once we could talk to the educators, there was a lot of attention, and they were ready to give this warmth to children. Next, I would like to tell you a little bit about how we worked with parents. If in the previous institutions, even in this institution that we're talking today, they were a lot easier to collect parents and engage them to the program, but in this particular institution we had certain difficulties. This program was still done in the summer, and the day of this meeting was part of the Ahmadit shelling. A lot of parents were in difficult condition to explain about the program. So due to the circumstances, it was impossible to gather all the parents at the same time, so the meetings were held in stages, in small groups. At the beginning of the program, parents were emotionally exhausted and had difficulty taking care of themselves. They also needed the support, attention, and without having the interaction with psychologists, they turned on some mechanisms and attention and attitude to psychologists as if they were a psychiatrist. I mean, we are all strong, we are all Ukrainians, we are coping, but at the end of the program, through these training meetings and during many meetings, we were able to set up good contact. I would feel this during this last meeting, when parents would do classes together with children, and they could really feel the result of the program, when they could feel the warmth of the people that are taking care of their kids on a daily basis. They finally could imagine how much our educators are spending in shelters, because they did a lot of emotional contribution to support their families that really could support the kindergartens and create this safe space. We improved communication of the parents with educators, and in such a way the whole atmosphere in the kindergarten improved. A huge plus, a huge advantage was that the program, of course, was going in a face-to-face format. I was able to do the mentorship, many thanks to Ms. Oksana. She gave us the supervision meetings almost like every week, and this was a huge chain reaction that helped us to give this support and give this assistance. It was a great advantage that the trainees could feel how this program would work, not just from textbooks, but rather to use these instruments and to apply their knowledge and practice, improving professional skills in real conditions. So this institution is very much interested to make sure that these interns would stay and work with them, because one of the challenges that I mentioned before, that it's very difficult to find the psychologists that would work to accompany the small kids. And what else we have faced in our preschool institutions, one of the most important ideas of the safe space is the possibility of game in the life of a child. That's the overload of this schedule for safe spaces. It's on average 5-6 classes per day, and also group activities added. So for me, as a psychologist, it was most difficult to break it down to some smaller things, how important could be just a game, just free and spontaneous play, which is an important element of a child's development. Practically, it disappears due to a busy schedule. Whenever the kids have this over busy schedule, when they have classes of 10-15 minutes, of course they have enough time to quarrel, but they don't have enough time to make peace. And because of that, they can have a lot of tension throughout the day. And in the evening, when parents don't have the resource, when their children don't have the support, they don't have the possibility to support their children, to play with them with such joy as the young boys and girls would want it, to make sure they get really a kick out of it. And this time, this kindergarten was the most important achievement that we have heard. I'm very much thankful to colleagues from the Center of Scientists who have accepted these kids. We said that the referrals started to work. 6 referrals, and among these referrals were not only children. Among these referrals was also 1 educator and 2 parents and children. These categories that felt the most that they do require assistance. But most interesting is that cooperating even with private institutions, the biggest concerns of the educators that I've heard, that even before they would fill the forms for the test for the emotional burnout, their biggest fear was that they would be sent, that they would be fired and would sent somewhere to go through treatment. And a huge part of the work was just aimed at doing away with these basic myths about the psychological assistance. So many thanks for the participation, many thanks for the support to Ms. Oksana. I'm very much thankful for the support to colleagues who I was very much concerned about each family, about each child, about each educator who was doing referrals. So I really hope that the next year in the conference of Safe Space, we will have more professionals who would support preschool. Many thanks for your attention. Thank you, Olena. Yes, we are trying a little bit behind time. We have a few more presentations. Please, could you stay with us if possible? And I would like to ask Alexandra, who will talk about the experience of the implementation of the Austrian project. Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Alexandra Rudkiewska. I'm the project manager in other projects where we're implementing Safe Space, but exactly here, I was also coordinating some Austrian projects, so we were also implementing this project, and I will talk about our results a little bit.
Так, зараз я поділюсь своєю презентацією.
Allow me to share my screen. So our project, the Austrian project, it was implemented together with our partners from the Austrian Agency for Issues of International Mobility and Cooperation in Education, as well as with State Service of Education Quality. This project was implemented from May 2022 to April 2023. So during 1 year, we were implementing this project. I can give you some results within this project. We conducted some 500 trainings. We could teach 40 trainers, and we conducted 1,000 supervisions. So at the beginning, we could select 40 coaches from various oblasts of Ukraine. These coaches would do trainings and supervisions for teachers, and with this global result was that 4,300 teachers underwent training and supervision and gained knowledge on strengthening students' resilience and strengthening their personal ability to overcome stress. And roughly 215,000 children in Ukraine indirectly benefit through psychosocial support provided by teachers trained on this Safe Space program. So these are the results that we could get within 1 year of the implementation of the project.
Так, і у 2024 році у нас стартував
in 2024 we started with the new project, which is called Safe Space 3. This is the third stage of this project. In the previous year, there was the first 2 phases, and in the framework of this project, we already could teach 20 coaches from the Center of the Professional Development of Teachers. These are the 10 new from 10 frontline regions of Ukraine, and these trainers are currently training teachers in the Safe Space program. So what are our expected results? The project will last until March 2025. And until March 2025, we plan that 800 teachers from local communities will receive online training using the Safe Space method, and the majority of this training already took place. Also, 200 teachers will be selected and trained and supervised using the open dialogue method to become facilitators of the project. Corresponding with these teachers who will train the method of facilitation, these teachers in their schools, in their local schools, will also provide such groups, open dialogue groups with other teachers. So we plan that another 800 local teachers will be supported through this facilitated open dialogue groups in school. And as a result, around 20,000 children from local communities will indirectly benefit from the psychosocial support provided by these 800 safe space trained teachers. Many thanks for your attention. I will pass the floor to my colleague Katerina Romankova, who will talk a little bit about the Finnish project. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Many thanks, Alexandra. Very happy to be with you present here. And before I will explain about my project that I'm implementing at the moment, I would also like to say that I was conducting together with you the training for the safe space as a psychologist, so I'm very happy to be in the field of such great professionals as you. So my name is Katerina Romankova. I'm also the project manager of the Center of Mental Health of the Kyiv-Mohyla Academy. And I'm now coordinating the project, which is called Integration of the Components of the Psychosocial Support Methodology into the Educational Process. Our project is implemented from August 2024 and will last until June 2025. That is 1 year. We are helped to implement it, and all of it is happening with the help of our beautiful partners, Finnish Church Organization. Next. Basically, the main objective of the project is to test the methodology of psychosocial support and its integration into the educational process. We're trying to do this with pupils of grade 5 and 6 through integration of the relevant components into these educational programs with art, technology, health, and physical culture, physical training. And also it's very important to mention that after our developed materials are approved by the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, that they will be expanded to the institutes of postgraduate education. Next, please. So our main objectives was to teach pedagogues how to correctly, in bigger priority, create the supportive environment in the classroom during the lesson and extracurricular activities, organizing the process of interaction with children and between children using developmental feedback, group sharing, and games. I think you all are familiar with all of these components, and I understand how important that is. Also to use in the process of instruction certain blocks, elements of modern knowledge about stress, mental trauma, and psychological recovery in the process of teaching individual thematic blocks of educational disciplines to make sure that children understand this, know these terms, so the parents, the educators would feel easier to recognize the aspects of stress and certain problems with the kids that they're teaching. It's very important on time and ethically to refer children to health, mental health services. Next, please. If we talk briefly about the main objectives of this project, that's the development of a 17-hour professional development course for teachers on the integration of components of the safe space method of psychological support into educational programs. This will be then passed on to the postgraduate education. Also conduct 2-day professional development training for teachers through the integration of relevant components into and also conducting research on the effectiveness of introduction of these psychosocial components into educational programs. So these are the main results, that all of it will be implemented, and we will see how our course of improving qualification will help teachers to implement our project, whether that helps our kids to improve their psychological condition, and in which way we can implement this psychosocial components into educational programs. Many thanks for your attention. Thank you, Katerina. Thank you, Alexander. And I'd like to ask if anyone would have questions about scaling up of the Safe Space program. Seems like not. Good. This was our last presentation, and I would like to invite to the final word Sergei Bogdanov and Oksana Zalewska, so they would summarize the conference. Sergei, the floor is yours.
Дякую, Катя.
Thank you, Katarina.
Ну, знаєте,
You know,
якби слухав
when I was listening to all of you with my breath held, I would like to thank all the presenters for your great work, for the very sincere, emotional presentations. I'm writing to my friends, somebody's from Sumy. I'm hearing what's happening, how your kids are being helped, and I think this will inspire our colleagues from various regions, and that has also inspired me. I have written down a huge number of various aspects which I'm taking away from this. And this event, we're conducting it not for the first year, but I think it's very precious by itself, because we can hear really these various thoughts, various experiences of the implementation, and really to be inspired by the work. And I believe that it's very important. This is very alive, something that you can feel, and every day this is something that is happening. I can see that there is this great experience in improving of certain components of Safe Space. I would like to thank to all the colleagues who have talked about it and who continue to improve this program to make sure it does meet the needs of your children. That's how it actually was meant, and that we would give this possibility of improvement. It's not possible to calculate all the options, but still everything should be as much as possible fitting to all kids. But definitely what we heard, certain things I have noted down so we can see possibly and to make this overall program. It was very important for me to hear about the experience of children with special needs, how they participated in the program Safe Space. And I believe that this is one of the... We would pay a lot of attention to studying this experience and to see whether we can make this program more accessible, convenient for the usage of colleagues and for the kids themselves. It's great that the kindergartens also was presented their case, and we hope that next year at the next conference there will be more cases from kindergartens. I personally see that it's very much needed to our small kids. The referrals have started to work. It's also really great. Many thanks, because we have had a lot of efforts put inside to make sure that this referral program would start off. We were searching how to overcome various barriers to this, some fears, some lack of trust, sometimes the stigma, the biased attitude. So there were various barriers to this. So it's so important, this is an important step, that we would find the algorithm, and we found such an approach that the referrals would start working to see how many kids would receive the assistance that really require it, or they are not strong enough to say this to the parents. So something goes wrong and the children remain without assistance. So we hope that we can plan and work how to increase this number of psychotherapeutic services. Also based on the results of the research, we can see that the number of children do require this, and I would like to thank colleagues for the projects that are coming in parallel to this. They are also very important. The things that we are implementing, the Safe Space for pedagogues, for educators, and in general it was thought of as a teamwork in schools where they trained educators, they trained psychologists, the representatives of administrations, when the team is working and really cooperating in one of the ways of the implementation of for the future. It's working with the centers of the professional development of pedagogues to support the pedagogues in the first place, all the children who work in school, not once during the improvement or qualification courses, but regularly at schools, every day when the difficulties arise. And number two is to integrate these components as much as possible where we do know that they do work in the qualification improvement courses, to make sure that the teachers who would go through this would really be ready. And that's a very interesting initiative. These are my impressions. I would like to once again to sincerely thank you. I will be going through the video, and I would be very happy whenever I would need to raise my moods, to raise my spirits. I will go through the video of our conference. Thank you, and passing to Oksana. I would like to just thank you. I'm just thinking that the year is coming to its end, and a lot of work has been done, and there is a certain feeling of tiredness, but at the same time some deep satisfaction that it's been done, that everybody has contributed every little step on the way, and their contribution. So we'll stay together, stick together, and we'll continue do this. Many thanks to everybody for this. Thank you, colleagues. So we are really great together with you. So we would like to wish to everybody family comfort, being with your families, with your loved ones during Christmas, after Christmas, and wish everybody victory. All the best.
До побачення, колеги.
Goodbye, colleagues. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you.